Folks, I'm extremely excited to reinitiate this conversation with the CEO of Rome, Ronick, because it was very well received. And frankly, I think that loan assumptions, is going to be a huge opportunity for real estate investors in my community in 2026. So we've got to get engaged. We've got to understand what's going on. How you doing, Ronick? Thank you for coming back this short week, this Christmas week. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. It's a pleasure to be back, and I loved hearing from your audience last time. We found them to be really thoughtful, sophisticated, and engaged, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Just in case people missed our first conversation, which was several months ago, remind us, what is the mission of Rome?
Thanks for that question. So the mission for Rome is, simply put, to make homeownership 2x more affordable. And our first product is the Actionable mortgage, which allows you to purchase the home with the seller's low rate mortgage included. If you think back to 20 and 21, there was about $1.5 trillion mortgages that were originated at an average rate of 3% that can be transferred from the seller to the buyer with no risk to the seller. So Rome helps you find those homes and purchase them and close in 45 days. So that's what we do.
Right. So let's push on that a little bit, because again, loan assumptions is one of those buzzwords in the real estate investor space. It's one of those things that gets people all hot and bothered, and then they try it and it's a mess and they get pushed back and they don't know how to do it. What you're telling me is Rome's mission is to make that easier and more streamlined. And, oh, by the way, to even highlight and find opportunity. That's kind of what we're talking about here?
You got it, Michael. Like, I always tell people, if it was all so easy, there'd be no need to have a company.
There'd be no need,
right?
Yeah.
Like, it would already be happening. So look, I think generally people find it difficult to find these homes. If they do find the home, by the grace of God, it's a challenge to get gap financing as necessary. And then subsequent to that, it's often a challenge to also get the loan closed in an appropriate time frame where the seller won't cancel. So Rome handles all of those topics end to end to ensure that you have a successful transaction in a time frame that's acceptable to you and to the seller.
Yeah. So folks, we're going to drill in. We're going to look at the application, but I want to go a couple of more places before we show it to you. So stay tuned for that. When I think about loan assumptions going into 2026, I do think there are two opportunities. The first one is really what you just highlighted there. Hey, you found a house, I'm just going to make my numbers up. They bought it for 200 grand. It's now worth 300 grand. And they have a 2% mortgage rate, right? Even if you find that by the grace of God, or you find it in the application, there's going to be what you call gap financing, right? So that you just have to know that going in. And Rome, again, helps facilitate that, which is amazing. I actually think people are sleeping on a bigger opportunity, or at least a potentially bigger opportunity. And that is a loan assumption where there isn't a lot of equity. Because again, I think there are some markets like Austin, Texas, that are down 20%. There are some markets that are down 5 or 6%. There are some people that just, they took the equity out and there's just none there. But you can also help facilitate those as well, correct?
Yes, exactly. So we work with a lot of investors. You can actually sort by down payment on our website and sort by
seriously?
And you can find all of the homes that you're interested in. And just take a look by the down payment that's on that house. So,
all right. Well, let's get into the application. So you've got me excited now. So I'm going to add this to the stage. So why don't you take it away, Ronick?
So take a look at this. So first, I'll show you what this process looks like without Rome, which is if you go to Zillow and you're searching in a metro like Houston and you're looking for an Actionable mortgage, you're going to find just a couple of results. And why is that? Well, because no seller really knows what type of loan they have. Least of all, do they know if their loan type yields a marketing or positioning advantage. So they just don't think to advertise it as such. And so that's why you only see a couple of results.
Well, hold on. I want to push back a little bit there. It's not only, so I agree with you. Homeowners don't know what they have. And I've said this for years. The people with 2% mortgages don't know that that mortgage is an asset. Most homeowners don't know this. But I actually want to place the blame on the listing broker. The listing broker is supposed to be the professional in this conversation. They're not just supposed to be somebody who fills out a form and posts it with some cell phone pictures. If you are a listing agent and you are not doing your service to your client who's paying you money to get them the best opportunity, you're the failure. So I think the listing brokers bear probably more than the homeowners, but nonetheless, your point is valid. You only got 2 in the whole freaking city of Houston, which is nuts.
Yeah, crazy. So then if you come over to Rome, we actually found every home
Oh,
listed
come
for
on. Look
sale.
at this.
And, there's more than 1,700 homes available actually right now with an assumable mortgage at an average rate around 3%. So what most people don't realize is that this is just something that's widely accessible. Your county records hold what type of loan you have. This is right now sorted by the amount of down payment you need. So amongst those 1,700 homes, you might even find opportunities to purchase for an investment where the down payment required is only $355. That's how much equity that seller has. And so we help you line up all the math. We help you understand what the payments will look like for you. Your monthly total is only going to be $1,100 a month instead of what the sellers, or instead of what you pay at market rates, north of $1,500. So everyone will generally save money when they assume a mortgage. And we're just excited to bring this opportunity to more people. So for investors, if it's a VA loan like this one, this is actually a perfectly acceptable investment property. And many veterans we find will part with their entitlement benefit for an investor because they can roll over that surplus equity into their next home purchase, and they can avoid what is known as a funding fee, meaning they have to pay a 3.3% funding fee upon second time use of their entitlement, which means they only get 96.7 cents of the dollar, something that almost all veterans are not aware of until we educate them on that. And at that point, they become excited about having an investor take over their VA loan. And think about when a VA purchases their original home, they often put zero down. So there's not a ton of equity built up in a lot of these homes, which is perfect for an investor who wants to put little cash in and make a great cap rate because they're taking over a property at a 2.875% rate. And with rents where they can be in most major metros at this point, they can cash flow pretty easily because your biggest cost is lower.
This is wild to me. Again, Zillow. Again, I'm going to put the blame on the brokers. Two, and you're showing me 1,730.
Exactly.
That's just a little bit higher. That's just a little bit higher than two.
So for investors, we think it's the best way for a lot of folks who have dry powder on the sidelines, looking to find ways to make a cash flow. Can't make the numbers pencil. We encourage you to try Rome, and we find that we can close pretty quickly. And it's one of the unique things in real estate where the buyer often has information asymmetry over the seller, only in this type of transaction. And almost all of the transactions you can think about is the seller knows far more about their property. They know, how it was taken care of, the home condition, what the neighbors are like, what the neighborhood is like, so on and so forth. So the seller often has information asymmetry. In this scenario, we give the power to the buyers. So the investors have some information asymmetry over the financial value of the asset that can be transferred.
Yeah. Again, you make your money when you buy. And, it's funny. One of the reasons, so I retired in 2018. And one of the things I did right away was go get my real estate license because, that's what you do. Right. And, during that process, you learn that you're going to be the professional in any transaction. So why did I not renew my license? So I wouldn't have that be held to a higher bar. So what you're telling me here is, as an investor using Rome, I can come into a situation, understand the opportunity better than the homeowner, better than the seller, and use that asymmetry to put together an amazing deal. That's what you're saying.
And if you're a seller who has an assumable loan, like you have an FHA or VA loan, you can also sell it for more because it's the only home in the neighborhood that people will be able to afford. So it works for both parties. It's a non-zero sum type of transaction.
So I'll ask this again at the end when we end up, but if people in my community are probably already excited by this, where do they go? Is it just Rome.com?
With Rome.com. We couldn't afford Rome.com, but maybe one day.
There you go. With Rome.
With Rome.com.
And Rome
WITHROAM.
Yeah. So folks, go to withrome.com right now and check it out. So again, look at your buy box, look at your city, see what you have. There's so many ways to take this conversation. I think the next thing we should talk about, really one of the questions I got from my community after our first conversation is, hey, they're not in my state. Yeah. So why don't we talk about that, where you are today? Because I know what your goal is, national coverage, but it's a process. It's a time. It takes money. So where are you at today?
Here are the states we're in today. We're in a lot of metros. We're in about 20 out of the 50 states. We're hoping to be nationwide pretty quickly. The reason why we're not nationwide yet is because we just focused on the states which had the most amount of inventory to get started. Had we done all
Makes complete logical sense.
Yeah. You have to pay for a lot of folks who don't operate their own business in this way. You have to pay every time you open a state, and you have to pay the MLS
Shocking.
access. So you try to manage the cost of the company a little bit by going where you can get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah.
But if you are looking in somewhere like Bismarck, I promise we are hoping to come to North Dakota, South Dakota shortly. Just trying to make our way through the country where we can have the best ROI on our investment.
Yeah. So when I think about what you're doing here as a startup in a mission-driven company, is you're just going where the largest opportunities are. You might be in 40% of the states, but you're in 60% of the opportunity. And again,
Exactly.
you're not satisfied with that. It's, you're not everywhere, and you acknowledge that. But again, you have growth plans. You probably have, a team tackling different metros, and they probably have a hit list, and, it's just coming as it comes. And, you'll be, I don't know, 80% coverage by the end of 26. It's just a timeline.
Yeah, it's just a timeline for us to grow into. We're hoping to be there shortly. You can also email me if you have any questions about, hey, we'd really like to be here, or if we're missing something. If you think we should be prioritizing the state, I respond to every email I get, even hate mail. So you
should be careful what you wish for, because my audience will tell you. Folks, leave comments below. What state and city, let's be fair to him, what state and city do you want Rome to be in? And he's about to give us his email. Go ahead.
Yeah. My email is raunaq@withroam.com, withroam.com. So raunaq@withroam.com. I'll ensure me or someone on the team responds to everyone. And we welcome hearing feedback. Almost all of the product has been edited with user feedback. I even have it. If you sign up for the website, you'll probably get an email from me a week after you sign up asking you for feedback. And I will personally read and respond to that email. So I love hearing from customers and folks who feel like either they've had a great experience with Rome, or that Rome has let them down. And we just hope to make it a little bit better for you every single day.
Yeah, folks, at the end of the day, he's the CEO of a company doing mission-driven, trying to help housing affordability, help investors understand, help sellers get out of bad situations. He's mission-driven. So I know you have a buy box. You're in my community. I know you're looking. If you go to withrome.com and they're not coverage, put a comment below. Send them an email. Let's reprioritize, and maybe my community can adjust the leaderboard and get some other cities covered. So very, very cool. I think we need to talk about affordability. I think again, if you saw President Trump's address to the nation, which again I did not see, in fairness, but I did read a summary. He's rather focused on housing affordability. And I think that's going to be a big thing for 2026. And loan assumptions might be one of the levers he pulls. At least that was my first thought. And frankly, it's why I reached out to you. I was like, wow, this affordability thing's coming. Rome's doing some special stuff. What do you think? Did you hear the same thing, or am I reading the tea leaves wrong?
Yeah, no, I think exactly. I think what you're saying is actually very interesting. So I'll just give you an example of something, how housing affordability is a really bipartisan, almost apolitical issue. Then if you just take a look at what do regular people think about, just pick Atlanta as a random metro. If you can see my screen here, when asked about the biggest problem facing Metro Atlanta, 28% of the respondents said housing affordability, followed by traffic, and then the crime and the economy. So almost everyone just cares about fixing the housing affordability situation. It is the number one concern that most residents have living in any major metro. So I think it's going to be a primary concern. And Atlanta is also where we see a lot of traction, by the way, just because, if you pick a major metro like Atlanta, typical income in that city is probably like 85, 90K per household. With rates where they are today, they can afford maybe a 325K home. But with the median home in Atlanta now north of 400, 425, they're about $100,000 short in purchasing power. So if you can get that same home at 2.5%, 3%, now all of a sudden that consumer can afford that home, which makes it more likely more homes list, which thereby reduces home price appreciation, and it actually gives more affordability throughout the region. So we think this is a major tool. Right now, it's just limited to FHA, VA. But we think that, with a little bit of legwork, it can be extended to GSE assumability as well. And prior to 1982, by the way, all loans were assumable. So
it was just a standard thing. Yeah.
And unfortunately, most of the people who were buying homes in 1980, 1981 are dead or out of the business. So we didn't really, recover any of those lessons.
Yeah, that's 50 years ago. It's funny. I as a real estate investor, one of the things I did over the years is I actually went and bought out of print real estate books because I wanted to see what happened in the 80s and the S&L crisis. And let's just say loan assumptions was everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that doesn't exist anymore. But
Yeah.
I think, so I want to talk about that because I believe for a long time, loan assumption was one of those topics that was talked about, but never really happened. Right. It's like a unicorn, right? It's fun to talk about, but nobody can make it happen. In fact, I've had people on my channel. I have millionaires like Anna Kelly who tried to do a loan assumption in Texas, and they tried to do it by themselves. And she wasted essentially 90 days. And to listen to her, 100 hours of her time, which is very valuable.
Crazy.
And it never went anywhere. And what Rome is doing, again, being mission driven, is basically saying, let us do it. And the reason why Anna or myself or any of my millionaires probably couldn't do a loan assumption is because we don't do 100 of them a month, right? It's a foreign concept to us. And, it just takes one, misstep or one vocabulary tweak and it just blows up. And that's why Rome works, is because you're doing them every day, everywhere.
Yeah, it's a purposeful company to help you get the assumption done. I'll note that there's a technical issue here, which is oftentimes if you do it yourself, when you get a new mortgage, for instance, you're talking to a loan officer who's very sales oriented. They're excited to get you over the line because they get 2 points on the mortgage. With an assumption, you're often sent directly to an underwriter or processor, back office folks who aren't necessarily incentivized whether the transaction closes or not. And so as a result, something that I see happen very commonly with people who do it themselves, then come to Rome to help get the transaction completed is, for instance, they'll be talking to an underwriter and the underwriter's going to ask them, hey, Michael, you had a late on a Macy's credit card back in 2017. We need to see a letter explaining that, like an LOE, letter of explanation. And the consumer is like, wait, what? I had a late from a Macy's credit card. Can you guys call Macy's and figure that out? And the underwriter's like, that's your job, click. And really all that the underwriting team needs to see is that it was an extenuating, not a recurring circumstance. That's when you were getting a divorce, the mail was left there and like you didn't.
I was on vacation, whatever.
Exactly. Just helping people actually get through the process, because the structural difference is what results in more complexity and a lower likelihood to close. I think we close something like 97, 98% of the time, assuming no contingencies. And largely it's because we've been able to build relationships with all of the major servicers in the country now, having done this at a rapid, pace. And so, for instance, we'll send them like edible arrangements, we'll like make sure that carrots and sticks, right? And I find that oftentimes people undervalue their own time and don't realize how much value you get out of economies of scale in being able to do this day after day and guide consumers through the process. So we encourage anyone, if you've had trouble with it, do not give up hope. We can show you how to do it, and we will, guarantee your satisfaction or your money back.
I love that. So let's kind of paint some actionable steps for my community, because again, there's no doubt they're going to be excited by this. First step, they go to withrome.com and see if their buy box or their status covers. It's kind of first step. Exactly. Let's assume, let's take the first assumption. Let's assume it's not covered. Then they send you an email saying, hey, thank you for coming on one rental at a time. I'm so-and-so. My buy box is X, Y, and Z. Okay, so we'll take the no out of the equation. So that goes on the scoreboard. Hopefully you get dozens, if not 100 emails saying, hey, get to my city. Now let's go the other way. It's more fun. Your buy box is covered. What do you want them to do, right? Do they go in and play around with Rome and look at the different searches? Do they have to, like, when do they reach out to Rome and say, I'm here, I'm interested? Where's that? When do you want them to come in?
When you click on any property on the page, you can actually just contact us. You can book a call, you can ask us a question, or you can get pre-qualified. So we encourage you to just play it right through, and you're going to get informed from us, right when you click on the page. So when you have a property, just reach out, and we will be more than excited to help you purchase.
All right. So let me just play that out, because I know my community pretty well. So again, we're in this assumption, we're assuming withrome.com has their buy boxes there, and they go there and they like a couple of houses. Do you want them to click that button for, let's say because my community is, they're ballers, right? They do the work. If they like 3, should they do that 3 times or just once to initiate the conversation? I want to be clear.
They can do it 3 times. It doesn't matter. We'll ingest all of it. So I think as long as they are able to book a call with us, like we'll have an advisor walk them through the entire process, review all of their properties, make sure they get support in pursuing all of the interests that they might have.
Okay. All right. So withrome.com, buy box, search, find a couple you like, book a call. Okay. So now you get on a call, and let's assume, because I think a lot of these have equity. I would guess 60 to 70%, probably the dominant portion have some equity in them, 40K or more. There's not a lot of $355, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about gap financing, because again, you're stepping into, in all of these situations, a first mortgage.
Yeah.
So again, if you happen to have the delta in cash, congratulations, move forward, you're good to go. But some folks will need help with the gap financing, or what I'll call a second. I don't know if that's technically correct.
Yes.
But let's talk about that. How do you help with that?
We will get you a second up to, I would say, like 95 CLTV. So long as you can put 5% down, you can get a second.
Oh my God. Really?
I would mention, again, it depends on how much you want to put down, how much equity the seller has.
Yeah, folks, don't go that high, please. You don't want alligators. Remember, no alligators, no negative cash flow. 95% scares me. But anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So you can, generally what I find is that a lot of these homes, they might have a current LTV ratio of say 70, 75%. So a lot of the investors will come in, they'll put down 20% and they'll take out secondary financing for 10%. That secondary financing comes with no prepayment penalty. Generally rates are between 7 to 9%. And so what that means is when you blend it together, you still get a blended interest rate below 4.5% or 4%. And
come
you're
on,
going to save,
that's wild.
You're going to save $300, $400 a month compared to market, because you're about 200 basis points below the market rate.
I would have not guessed you get a second sub 9. I would.
And actually, what most people don't realize is that for a lot of investors, they're very creditworthy. So they actually end up getting great secondary financing rates. And on secondary financing, I'll mention it comes with no prepayment penalty. So a lot of folks take on secondary financing and then subsequently pay it off once they run into some additional cash. Maybe you sell another property and you can recycle those funds into paying off this debt.
Well, I got to tell you,
cool for you.
Again, knowing my community, knowing what I would do with this if I was still in active growth mode, is I'd run those blended interest rates. And initially I was thinking about, hey, I'll take, $100,000 on one. But if you really get me a blended interest rate sub, 4.5, 4, I might take the 100K and put it 50K each and go get me 2 of these things. I mean, you're talking some crazy numbers now. So again, the rate you've talked about, what's the term? Is it match the first, or what?
It's up to you. It can be 30 years. It can be 20 years, 10 years. It's up to you. So it can be 10, 20, 30. We can go as, I was pushing for 50 years as well, but I don't think there's a ton of appetite for 50 years.
No, I think I mean, again, if this was me, folks, I would try to match the duration on the first. This is crazy. I had no idea. This is good stuff. So again, how do we drive this home? Because again, I think Rome is a tool that helps homeowners, but really is a tool for investors, my community. What are the action steps? Step 1, withrome.com.
Yeah, come to withrome.com. Come here, search for wherever you're looking: Atlanta, Arizona, Houston. You come here, click around, find the homes you like. You can sort by, home price, down payment, interest rate, days on market. Sort by list price or monthly payment. You can filter by down payment, the rate that you want on the home, beds, bathrooms, home type, and more. So find homes that you like. Once you find a home you like, come here, book a call, or get pre-qualified, or ask us a question, and we're all very responsive.
Very cool. And of course, folks, if he's not yet in your market, doesn't mean he won't get there, but your job is to say, hey, Ronick, I'm XYZ buy box. When are you going to get to my area? Send him an email. He gave that to you earlier, but wow, this is pretty cool.
Exactly. That's it. And send me an email if you have any questions. It's raunaq@withrome.com, and you'll get a response. We're big fans of this community, so happy to help in any way at all that we can.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much. Take care.